as well.
Okay. I'm going to give, as we always do, an update for the recent announcements from the autonomous database. The first thing I want to mention is we talked about this last month as well, but I want to reiterate in case some of you guys missed it. So we have been sending some notifications regarding a change coming to the wallet-based connections that you need to take an action. Some of you might have received the email alerts, and some of you might have seen the alerts in the OCI console about this upcoming change. And this is not something we are doing ourselves. The changes coming because the DigiCert decided to remove the organizational unit field from the certificates. So we had to make the adjustments to our wallets to accommodate that. Because of that, you will have to do a small change in your connect strings. So if you missed that, please take a look at these announcements, and if you have any questions, please reach out to us. So because what this change is happening is, as I said, the organization unit field is being removed from the wallets. So any wallets downloaded from January 10th don't have the organization unit field anymore. And till March 6th, you will be able to use old wallets and the new wallets to connect to the database without any problems. But on March 6th, the wallets and the connect strings having the organizational unit won't be able to connect to the database. So to be able to do that, you need to update your connect strings before that. So the time is coming soon. So if you haven't already done so, please take a look and make the adjustments to your connect strings and the wallets to make sure that you won't have a problem on the March 6th. And since we are this organization field is being removed, you need to make sure that your client libraries support these connect strings without organizational units. So this requires some certain versions to be used for the clients, certain client types. And we have a MOS node which has the details of those things. So please take a look at this and make sure that you made the changes before March 6th so that you don't have any problems that they're connecting. And if you have any questions, if you need more information, if you have any problems, please let us know. As I said, till March 6th, your old wallets and new wallets connect strings will continue to work as normal, but on March 6th, you might have a problem. And if you have any issues, you can open an SR, and support is aware of these things, so they can help you as well. So I just wanted to mention it again to make sure some of you.
Quick question on this. If we use the wallet that we download now, that will work after March 6th, correct? This is what I was trying to...
No, currently, both of them will work today. Both the old one and the new one works today. After March 6th, the old ones will not work.
Okay,
the ones downloaded
the old ones won't work, but we could create one now that will work after March 6th.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly. And as I said, if you have any problems, if you have any questions, let us know. We can try to help. Okay.
And will we get a copy of this PowerPoint with these dates and stuff on it?
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. One of the first things I want to mention, we are not going too much into the details. There will be more information will be provided over time, but you might have seen the announcements. We are introducing a new pricing metrics for the compute resources for the autonomous database. As you know, today, when you're creating a database, you define the compute resources in terms of all CPUs, and then one all CPU corresponds to one physical core, which has 2 threads in it. And in this new pricing model, we will be providing a more abstract measure of compute resources, which is not tied to a physical core directly. It is going to be a more of a measure of compute resources. So even if the underlying hardware changes or different versions of hardwares are available in the fleet, you will be able to get a consistent resources for your databases. And as I said, we are going to provide more details in the upcoming weeks, but as of now, for your databases, for existing databases, you don't have to do anything. All CPUs are still available, and you will be able to choose all CPU or eCPU based model when you're creating the databases, or switch them once it becomes available. Currently, it is in limited availability mode, so you won't see it today, but in the upcoming months, it will be available in the UI, that you will be able to create new databases with this model or switch your databases. As I said, today we are not going to go too much into details about it. In the upcoming weeks, we will provide more details about how this works and what are the differences. But we are trying to come up with a new pricing model to make it more abstract for feature complexity in the hardware changes, so that we can give a consistent behavior to your databases. So it's a more of a long-term thing that we are doing. So for your existing databases, you don't have to change anything. All CPUs are still available and will be available. It is more like a feature thing. And as I said, we will be providing more details in upcoming weeks. One of the new things that we introduced is some of our customers were asking that some of the tools that we are providing together with the databases to be disabled. They don't, for example, some of them say, I don't want the database actions to be available or the Graph Studio to be available. In the past, you didn't have a way of enabling or disabling them. Now we are allowing you to disable some of those tools if you don't want those tools to be used. So while you are creating a database or for your existing databases, you will be able to disable these tools for your databases, like the Apex or database actions, Graph Studio, those type of things. You will be able to disable. Another thing we introduced recently is the Slack integration. So from the database, now you will be able to send messages and data directly to the Slack. Slack become a very important part of a lot of the organizations, so they want some integration. So Autonomous Database now has that Slack integration that you can send messages or data direct to the Slack. So here's an example. So in a very simple manner, you will be able to use this integration, and details and samples are in the documentation as well. One of the things that we provide in the Autonomous Database has been the ability to create a clone from the backup, a point-in-time clone. For example, you were able to say, I want a clone of this database as of yesterday, 1 p.m. And system was able to create a clone as of 1 p.m. yesterday using the backups. But this was only available in the past within the same region. So you were able to create a clone from the backup only on the same region. Now you have the ability to create a clone from the backup cross region as well. So you will be able to say, create a clone of this database as of yesterday, 1 p.m. in the other region. So it is now available as well. One of the things people were asking is they wanted when you're creating a database with private endpoints, system was choosing the private IP for you. You were not able to give your own private IPs, but some of our customers has some requirements that they want to be able to specify a specific IP to their databases with private IPs. In the past, this was not possible, but now when you choose the private endpoints, you have the option to specify a custom IP address for your databases. If you have such a requirement, you can specify a specific private IP address, either when creating your databases or after the database is created, you will be able to switch that. And with that, that's all from my side.
So there are quite a few questions in the chat, Jamil. I don't know if you want to do that like on chat, or if you want to talk about a few of them here.
Okay, let me quickly look. Okay, I am seeing for these questions, if you can, Tim and if you can email us, we can try to help you guys in that sense. For the SR, if you can send the SR number, we can take a look and see what's going on and speed it up. And Tim, we can talk to you in terms of how to make these changes. Basically, the change you are doing is not it is just a change of the connect string, so we can work with you to help with the configuring the SOA with that. Okay.
Okay, any plans for MS Teams?
Not at this point, but
Okay, doc. Okay, so yeah, if you can send me that SR number directly. Okay, Giant. Hey. Do you want? There we go. Thank you. All right, so things are moving fast, so we thought it was a good idea to update you every month on what's happening here. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now, yeah.
Okay, I was somehow muted.
Okay.
Okay. So just a recap, in 2022, towards the end of last year, we went GA in November for data transforms. And we updated around Christmas time, we did a patch update for that. There was no major new features went in during Christmas, but it was just a patch update. Now, coming to 2023, this year we have major plans to add more features to data transform. And we are doing a monthly cadence. So every month you will see some more things in data transforms. And ODI Web as well. If you guys are not familiar with ODI Web has the same transform UI. And because it's a customer managed and we don't have to deploy in autonomous database, it's a separate one. We are able to deliver the new features first in ODI Web. That's the way it is. So ODI Web is also updated. New images are updated in the marketplace every month with new features, and sometimes new features get into the ODI Web first. And you will see some examples of it while we are waiting for data transforms to roll out in autonomous database, right? In January, there was an update due after December last year, but it slipped, and actually it is due this week, end of this week. So some of the stuff which I will be talking about, you will see it in by end of this week, depending on when it rolls out in the Autonomous database. All right, so that's the cadence. Let's look at actual features, what we have. Now, the code so first thing is code simulation. This is what you, if you are familiar with ODI in ODI Classic in on-premises and on marketplace, you know that ODI has this concept of when you build a mapping, you before you even execute it, you can do the code simulation. So essentially, you can see that final SQL which will be executed. So we added that in Data Transform UI as well. And it is helpful, like when you are building flows, and if you want to see how it is, you want to debug something, you can take a quick look. So that's a useful thing. Of course, like when you execute the data flow, then you get the actual SQL and actual script, like which gets executed, that you get it from the jobs log. But anyway, so that was good. The major thing which happened is we added lots of new connections to databases and applications. So remember, like when we went GA in Data Transform in December, the connections were bare bone. They were mainly to Oracle database, like actually it was just Oracle database and Oracle Fusion apps. It was still useful. But anybody who had a wide range of like data sources, different databases, it was not very useful to them. ODI Web had all these different connections. So lots of connections were grayed out actually in Data Transforms. Actually today also, if you go, they are grayed out. Now those connections are coming alive. And some examples you can see that is the NetSuite, SQL Server, Salesforce, Shopify, things like that. And there are many more. So essentially, all the stuff, most of the stuff, I will say, not all the ODI Web stuff, most of the stuff will come over. And if you have any questions on this, like, and I can answer that after this. And it's coming by end of this week. So we have a NetSuite analytical warehouse team, and they are eagerly waiting for this, because one of the use cases for them is to, NSAW customers, they can extend their warehouse by using data transforms, and they can bring in data from other sources like SQL Server into Autonomous database and things like that. So it's going to be very, very useful. It's slowly, Data Transform is becoming like enterprise kind of solution, right? That's what, because we have a lot of enterprise customers as well. So it'll be useful to them. So that's like immediately what's coming. Now, coming soon, we have a big list, and this is like just few of it. And this is almost immediate. That's why I have written as coming soon. There are things, so expect this coming soon is in March, like in 1 month from now, basically. This was supposed to be end of February release, but like we're in the middle of February already. But so you expect this in March. And we have a lot more stuff coming in April, May, subsequent months. I'm not describing that right now. But if you have any questions, I can answer that. Now, major thing is SQL as a data source. And this is going to be useful for customers who are trying to migrate their mapping written somewhere else, even in ODI or wherever, or like even DBT. If somebody has written some SQL and they want to use that in data flow, they can take that SQL. So essentially, it works like a view. So you slap that SQL in, and you can use that as a source, instead of table. So that's going to be very, very useful. You don't have to basically reverse engineer and create a data flow if you want to migrate something. That's going to be useful. And it's already in ODI Web, by the way. Okay, this is one example where we can push things in ODI Web first, and then it's coming into the Data Transform. We have a PL/SQL block in workflows, so you can write any PL/SQL block procedures. You can call a procedure in the workflow, so it becomes like a step in the workflow. So right now in a workflow, you can have data flows. You can have multiple data flows with like success and failure steps. So you can have PL/SQL block as well. This like indirectly is going to enable notifications because in a PL/SQL block you can do SMTP calls and all those and you can send emails as well. So using this, you will be able to send success or failure emails as well. Right, that's one of the side benefits we'll get, and this will be somewhat equivalent of in ODI Classic. We used to have procedures. In data transforms, we don't have a procedures as such, but we could call a database procedure this way. Right, so that's going to be very, very useful. Then major feature, and this is like, is very exciting, is loading from Delta Share. So we are working in general in autonomous database, we are working a lot for data share kind of stuff. It's a Databricks stuff. Now this is a reading, not publishing to data share, but reading from data share. So if you have in Databricks marketplace, I think they are coming this week or next week, where you could go and publish a lot of data in Databricks marketplace. You could subscribe to it, and once you get the authentication token, you could use that to load data from Delta Share to autonomous database. And it uses the same UI which we have today for data load in data transform. If you have seen it, essentially you say, this is my source, these are the tables I want from this schema, and load it into my autonomous database. Something like that. It's a very simple, straight pull, no transforms. We are going to use the same UI. So in the source, instead of saying go to this database for picking up the tables, we will say go to Delta Share, and you get you provide the authentication token and credentials, and we will pull it from there. And you can schedule that in the same way you schedule the rest of the flows in the scheduler. Right. So it's very exciting. We are working very hard for this, and it's coming like in the next update within a month. All right. Again, any questions on this? I'll take it up after this. So last thing is we are working on workshops as well, right? So we are actually working on Data Studio workshop. Maybe Patrick will cover that in more details. It's an overview workshop where all the components are described at a high level, transforms being one of them. So transforms has one lab in workshop, and we are coming up with this lab actually this week. It should be published by end of this week or early next week maximum. So anybody who wants to learn about a data transform can go to this workshop and other tools, of course, in Data Studio, and get a environment and go through the steps, and they can see at a high level. The detailed workshop, which will go over individual detailed features of the transforms, will be coming next. And I expect, because that will have a lot of details into other areas which will not cover in the workshop. So I'm expecting like in a month, 2 months after this workshop gets published, then it will come there. So anyway, so that's my
Giant, how do you access that lab then? Is there a link?
Live labs? It's live labs.
Okay, live labs. Okay.
Yeah. We already have a live labs workshop today for ODI web, if you have seen it, but we don't have anything in like separate for data transforms. And ODI web has a component of data transform. It gives you if you don't have anything, if you have not seen it, then that's actually good to start with. But we will have something better this week, and details coming next. Okay, so that's my end of my presentation. Let me see what.
Any questions for Giant?
Do you have in the chat? I'm looking at the chat. Okay, this. Okay, let's see. Quick question on Fusion Analytics Warehouse. Can you migrate if we Okay. Who is asking this question? Sambasi. Okay. Is this a question for data transform, right, Sambasi?
So data transform or yes, exactly. We are planning to see this platform, data analytics warehouse. So one of the requirements, whether we are go with that or pass model. So offering and works, right? Basically, we want to get that in a HCM cloud fusion data to the analytics. So what I here are exploring, right? So it won't support for data transforming from a fusion to warehouse. So for intervals like data migration or data transform is not possible for every custom intervals, like not every 2 hours. Our requirement currently, we need to show the real time, like in 2 hours. So will it be possible that an existing one, like in Fusion Analytics warehouse, can we schedule that in a custom interval?
So your question is about Fusion Analytics warehouse.
Yes.
Okay, so a slight clarification. Fusion Analytics Warehouse is basically the PaaS service for bringing the Fusion SaaS data into analytical warehouse. So it's a complete solution, and it is separate than what I'm talking about here in data transforms. The data transform is a separate, like a data integration platform feature, where you can bring data from any source to any warehouse or any target, right? You can use this along with Fusion Analytics Warehouse. In fact, one of the uses will be for data transfer will be to customize your Fusion Analytics Warehouse. And if you want to load data from Fusion, then you could get data into Fusion Analytics Warehouse, and from there you could load using data transform to wherever you want as well. But if your question is about Fusion Analytics Warehouse scheduling frequency and all those things, I won't be able to tell because I'm not a Fusion Analytics Warehouse PM. So
that's fine. That's fine. So
right. But some of our customers, they use data transform ODI web actually, and they're exploring data transform as well for bringing Fusion SaaS data, just like Fusion Analytics Warehouse does, with a custom map, and data transform supports extracts from Fusion SaaS. And you can have any kind of frequency there. There's no limitation as well that you have to do it daily and things like that. It rides on a technology called BICC, BI Cloud Connector, which is a Fusion. You're familiar with that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it uses BICC to extract data from Fusion SaaS and load into wherever into autonomous database, and then and you can do any kind of transforms in between, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so you use data transforms along with Fusion Analytics Warehouse, like for customizations and extra needs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't see any more questions. Anybody else has any other question? No.
All right. Thank you. Okay, Patrick.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So I'm planning to up-level things a little bit, and I hope this isn't too much of a clash. And looking at some of the audience here, some of this is not necessarily going to be news, but bear with me anyway. I wanted to talk about, in this session, I wanted to talk about our overall philosophy and positioning for Autonomous Data Studio. For anyone that joined us in Las Vegas, we were just debuting the Data Studio now, and then it literally, when I took off to go to Vegas, it wasn't in production and it was rolling out as I landed. That's literally true. So I just wanted to go into some of the positioning of all this, and I thought I'd run through these things. Start by debunking a false equivalence, which I think a lot of our competitors go banding about the place, and it's worth just getting that off the table to start with. Just review some data master concepts, so I can go through that pretty quickly given the audience we have here, and then we get into the autonomous database differentiation, some of which we just heard about from Jayant, but there's more than that, of course, and then what's next at a high level. So about this false equivalence, a lot of the time we'll hear about how you can build a so-called solution by cobbling all these things, all these different components together. we just don't think that's the way to do things. Self-service analytics should not mean that you get to build your own analytics stack. I mean, the whole point is to avoid the need for IT, not to become IT. I know a lot of folks on the phone here, on the call here, are very technical, but a lot of our end users really aren't. And it's just not reasonable to expect these guys to cobble together complicated solutions. So I think that's a very important point to make. So then we come to our approach for this thing, and we'll start by reviewing some basic data mart concepts. Again, you're familiar with all this, but it's worth level setting all this. The point is that data at source is rarely in a form that's useful for analytics. It may not be available locally. So for example, a manufacturing system can be the source for the product master, but generally we're going to need more than that. Information about various campaigns to promote these products comes from the marketing system, and details of the individual orders for these various products and perhaps the campaigns associated with those orders comes from the sales system. So often the full picture only becomes clear from the collection of all these various fragments of data. But even then, it's probably not in the right form for analytics. Data in these source systems, such as those shown here, is typically organized in third normal form. It's great for transactional systems. It's just not ideal for analytic processing. For analytic purposes, we typically need to restructure the data, perhaps into a star schema, as I'm showing here, with an order item, fact table, and dimensions for time and product, customer, campaign. So in general, this is the sort of workflow that's required in analytics, whichever platform you may choose to use. You're going to need a collection of tools to help you through this workflow. So most of our prominent competitors don't offer a comprehensive suite of tools to help with this. In some cases, they'll propose a solution which is delivered in kit form. Now there's some fine print here. Oh yes, some assembly required. Yeah, that's quite an understatement in many cases. A more typical case is what I call the Frankenstack. And that can be pretty scary. So here, for example, is an actual competitive solution. This is something we were brought into. And in this particular situation, the customer's source system included Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server databases, as well as files of various types. And we see these on the left-hand side of the slide over here. That's quite typical. Various departmental teams used either Power BI or Tableau for their analytics, as shown on the right. So again, quite typical. And across the middle from left to right, you see the various stages in the analytic workflow. So here you'll note that there is a different technology vendor for each stage through data load, cloud storage, data transformation, and cloud data warehouse. So the first question then is, how are you expected to cobble all of that lot together? But that's only the first question. It gets worse because, of course, there's money involved. You're typically going to have to pay to acquire or consume each of these products. Then you've got to train your team to use them all. Next, you've got to manage each component as well as maintain the interfaces between them. And it gets even worse than that. Business executives need to have confidence in the analyses they're presented. An important aspect of that is a clear view of data lineage. What's the source of this information? What's been done to prepare it for this analysis? And likewise, responsible developers need a clear understanding of the potential impact of changes to the systems they manage. Agility can be severely impacted if it's hard to identify, consult with, or notify the stakeholders in these downstream systems. So there's the data lineage, and there's the impact analysis. Now, an important problem with the Frankenstack approach is that each of these interfaces between these disparate components introduces an obstacle to data lineage and an obstacle to impact analysis. So there are significant disadvantages to these roll your own analytics Frankenstacks. It's often a false economy to select the lowest cost components, and you do so at your own peril. For one thing, there are interface complexities. How many vendors are involved in this so-called solution? What's the compatibility matrix between the various components and their various versions? If something goes wrong in one of those interfaces, who are you going to call? Are you going to get caught in the middle of a blame game between vendors on different sides of the interface? And you always have to pay attention to money, of course. And there are lots of expenditures, paying for acquisition and training, paying for the staff to deploy, configure, and maintain the stack. And even when it's all up and running, there are the inherent limitations that we've just discussed in terms of data lineage and impact analysis. So with that backdrop, now let's consider how Oracle Autonomous Database is truly a differentiated service. This is a logical evolution of our converged database philosophy, an integrated solution from a single vendor that includes a built-in data studio. So rather than a complex analytics stack with all the inherent risk and hidden costs that we've just been discussing, Autonomous Database tremendously simplifies the analytics workflow with a built-in data studio to guide the customer through the various phases. So the Autonomous Database Studio includes tools for data loading, for data transformation, which we've just heard about from Jayant, for building data business models, preparing insights and data analyses, and the metadata associated with these tasks is stored in an integrated catalog that enables clear data lineage and impact analysis. So here's an example of a customer who has taken advantage of this and is reaping the benefits. So Stretchline is a global narrow elastic fabric manufacturer. So think of stretchy athletic wear. These folks are based in Asia, as many fabric manufacturers are, as many garment manufacturers are, with factories distributed across the region. And what they need to do is to consolidate data from various factories so that they can get insights from their business globally. And the way they used to do things, seriously, was to ship spreadsheets around the world. Imagine the security nightmare involved in that. Imagine the lineage, all of the things I've just been talking about. So what they did was they abandoned this previously cobbled together solution and worked with Autonomous Database to provide a single source of truth, consolidating all of this information using this built-in tool suite, gaining tremendous gains in sensitivity, in data security, and uncovering valuable insights far quicker than was previously the case. And you can see some of the quotes here from the customer about how satisfied they were with the solution here. So in summary, instead of all the chaos associated with these unreliable integration among the components of a Frankenstack, the expense of acquiring, deploying, maintaining, and holding it all together, and fumbling around in the dark with no idea of data lineage or dependencies, Autonomous Database has a built-in data studio. It's pre-integrated with a consistent interface and a common set of metadata. It's pre-installed, so there's nothing more to buy and there's nothing more to install. And the common metadata shines a bright light on data lineage and impact analysis. Now, the Data Studio includes tools for data load, data transformation, which Jayant has just been talking about, stuff here that's powerful enough for the integration demands of a data engineer, but it's simple enough for the data prep demands of a departmental analyst. There's a tool for data analysis and a very nice data catalog as well. So there are several announcements about important features that we've added to our tools suite recently. And the first is the Data Studio itself. As I said, this came very recently. And we realized we were suffering sort of incrementalism. Database actions, as if you've been keeping an eye on that, started off with just a few cards. But as we added more and more functionality, we realized we had really quite a staggering suite of cards there. They're tools for developers and administrators as well as business analysts, and perhaps it was a little bit overwhelming. So the idea of the Data Studio was to bring together a suite of tools for self-service analytics, specifically for that set of functionality, for that target audience. Bring it into an integrated interface. The Studio spans the analytic lifecycle from data load through transformation and onto data analysis. We've built in workflow capability so that there's a clear idea about what to do next, rather than sort of being overwhelmed by all these cards. What do I do? You come into the data, into the Data Studio with a brand new database. It says, perhaps you want to load some data. If you've already got some data in there, it says, well, here's the catalog, including the most recent objects. Perhaps the next thing you want to do is transformation or analysis. Transforms, as Jan has just been talking about, it's a fully managed data integration solution. It's included with Autonomous Database, with nothing more to buy, install, or maintain. Data transformations are simply defined through an intuitive drag and drop interface, and you can experience all that for yourself using the live labs that we've just heard about. It features automatic code generation for application sources, including Fusion, NetSuite, and Salesforce. That's coming very soon, as we've just heard. And there are built-in tools for data quality. You can now run queries on Autonomous Database directly from Excel using a new add-in that includes either queries directly against base tables or against analytic views, for which we've got a nice little query building tool. And the important thing here is that you don't need any additional client connector software. So I mentioned this in case you're familiar with the old ADB for OLAP provider. Previous way of connecting from Excel to an Oracle database. It was kind of clunky to set that up. You needed to set up the client connector separately. This is all interfaced through REST, so you don't need to worry about client connector software. And I should add that very soon we'll have a Google Sheet capability, which is very comparable as well. Data Studio also includes a built-in data analysis app. You can use this to generate, refine, and share business models for analysis. And I really like the way this is built. You don't approach this from the point of view of I'm building a semantic model, and many people think, what is a semantic model? You approach it in terms of I'm building a data analysis, and on the way, it happens that we're building the analytic view for you. It's a very nice way of setting things up, I think. So, we can do basic data visualizations and charts through this, and you can export these semantic models into your analytic tool of choice, whether that's Oracle Analytics or Tableau or even Excel or Google Sheets. These things can be directly imported there. So that's great. So you've got a common semantic model which enables simpler collaboration across teams using different tools, which is quite common, of course. Coming soon, we'll have the ability to build dashboards from saved analyses. So that's something we can be looking for in the near future. So additional resources, there's plenty of good stuff on the web. These links here, oracle.com. Under Autonomous Database, you'll find a Data Tools tab, which will take you to some more information about the Data Studio. And in our data warehousing blog, we've got all sorts of good information drilling into how to use each of these tools in more detail. We're always working on new things there. We're also working very hard on these live labs. Jayant mentioned this. So the trick here is just Google Oracle Live Labs. Live Labs is one word, and it brings you to a really nice interface. There's a nice little query capability at the top. You can filter on the left-hand side. You can filter for autonomous database. The lab that Jayant mentioned, self-service tools for everyone using Oracle Autonomous Database. Jayant himself actually has been working on an overhaul of this one. So if you've used that at all in the past, very shortly, we will have a newer version of that, which I thought it was a great lab before. It's much better now. It really is, I think, an excellent new lab showing off our new capabilities. And there are a number of other very good labs that that we've been working on just literally in the last month. So lots of good stuff under Live Labs. And that's about all I had to share with all of you. I'll stop sharing now. We've got about 5 minutes left. Let's see, did I have any questions on the way? Yeah, Tim had a good one. Hello, Tim. Thanks for making these points about self-service and complex implementations. Can you please share this presentation with the Oracle Salesforce? Yes. Yeah, I mean, the inside baseball of this, we do a lot of comparable sessions to this one. So that, you know, this community that Laura runs for us is a primary way of getting hold of getting information out to our, you know, our most trusted partners. Similarly, we have programs internally whereby we train our sales guys. It's a very big sales force. They've got a lot of things to deal with. So you just have to keep getting the message out there and keep getting the message out there. And we do train these on a deliver these things on an ongoing basis. So yes, Tim, I hear you. We're going to continue to make sure that our sales force is aware of the need to sell simplicity to our target audience here.
Patrick, couple thoughts real quick.